Hey everybody. So I thought I'd take a few minutes today and just do a little Q&A session. We're still getting quite a few questions from our patients and from other individuals that may be uncertain, unsure about what's happening with the coronavirus, and maybe a little nervous or a little scared. So just going to answer a few of these questions to just kind of put your mind at ease so you know exactly what you're dealing with and how we can handle this together. So the number of cases is increasing. Does this mean that the virus is getting worse? Simple answer to that is no, the virus is not getting worse. It's the same virus, the same virus that's been infecting us all along. It's not getting any stronger, not getting any weaker. It's doing the same thing. We've said right from the very beginning, the virus must run its course. What you're going to see daily numbers increase. As people get tested positive, the number of cases increase. So eventually you get to a peaking point. Once the numbers peak, then each day after that you see the numbers decrease. And this is science. This happens in any epidemiological study of any viral outbreak or any pandemic or epidemic. You'll see numbers increase. It peaks, then you'll see numbers decrease. So it's not like one day all of a sudden it's just going to stop and we're going to say, oh, 0 cases, we have no cases today. Generally, they don't do that. You're going to see a decrease in the numbers. There are some studies showing that this virus likes that 40 to 50 degree temperature range. So again, viruses like that colder weather, the cold temperature. So once springtime and summertime weather comes, like we have here in Florida most of the year, the virus tends not to do so well. It's easier to kill it off, from your body's immune system fighting it off, and it doesn't tend to spread as easily. So it has to run its case. We will have more numbers. Yes, there will be. We get people calling our office every day or sending us messages every day. Yeah, there's 1,000 new cases, 500 new cases. Like, yeah, that's going to happen. We know that, we understand that. It's just not going to come to an abrupt end. It's got to run its course, it's got to peak, and then it will drop off after that. The World Health Organization did a study, and what they found is that most of these cases, the majority is 80% of these cases improve in 5 to 10 days. So most of these cases are mild symptoms, where you have mild symptoms, maybe a little fever, a little cough, but mild symptoms that are improving in 5 to 10 days. That's 80%. Moderate to severe cases, there's 14% of those. May take 2 to 3 weeks, but again, those people are getting better as well on their own. So all these people are getting better on their own. So there's 94% of the cases. In the 6% cases that are critical or maybe life-threatening, those are the people that you're hearing about that may end up on a ventilator because they're having a hard time breathing. Those are the people that have underlying heart problems, underlying blood pressure problems, underlying COPD and respiratory diseases, or underlying end-term diabetes. So, I'm hearing things like, once people get tested positive, they need a ventilator, they're putting them on a ventilator. No, that doesn't happen. It's only those people in the end stages, the worst of the worst of the worst, the most critical, that need that life support. That's why we call it life support, right? Because they're putting on the ventilator because they're not being able to breathe on their own, and those are the people that end up, that 1.4% mortality rate that we're seeing. Those are the people in that top group, that 6% of the critical cases. So again, our mortality rate is staying at that 1.4%, which is pretty low and good. Not that we want to see anybody die, but those numbers are good compared to, like, Italy's at 5% mortality rate. The average age of death in Italy is like 85 years old. Ours is like 80 years old. So again, you see the virus, even though it may be infecting and people are testing positive in different age groups, those people aren't dying. It's those people that are immunocompromised, they're immunosuppressed, that have some underlying problem, and they're well into their upper years of life. Not that we want to see that happen, but again, just know that these are the facts. It's a science. Know the numbers. So I heard that it is circulating in the air. There's some, some things going around saying, oh, there was a study done and they found that it can stay in the air for, several hours. Again, you have to understand what they do in these studies. It's a controlled environment. When they go into a controlled environment in a laboratory, and maybe they have a box that's, sealed off, from any air conditioning or any contaminants or anything that may disturb the virus. And then they mist it or aerosol the virus into that contained environment. And they're misting it or aerosoling it, not like what you're coughing droplets or sneezing droplets. It's a very fine mist. So there's no movement of the air in there. So of course this particles may stay suspended in the air in that situation. And again, what you have to understand is that in our environment, there's air, the wind is blowing. If you're outside, if you're inside, there's air conditioning, there's people walking around, so the air is moving around, circulating, and we're not aerosoling or misting particles out into our environment. If we're coughing droplets, which are larger sized particles, which are gonna, drop to the floor or land on something, and then somebody may touch it and pass it on that way. So these are scientific observations at this point. If you hear something that somebody did this or somebody did that, unless it's published in a peer-reviewed journal, which means that the people from that journal, a peer-reviewed journal like Journal of American Medical Association or New England Journal of Medicine or the British Lancet, these are well-respected, well-known peer-reviewed journals. Unless it's published in that journal as a peer-reviewed scientific study and it's been looked at and combed through and they made sure that everything was done right, then you might say, okay, that's a legitimate study. But right now they're all scientific observations until they become published excuse me, in a journal. So viruses are the most numerous entities on Earth. We have to understand that as long as human beings have been on this Earth, we've been living with viruses. Viruses aren't new. What happens is we have new strains of viruses that come along. But we have to understand that viruses are everywhere. Bacteria are everywhere. Germs are everywhere. We can't hide from viruses. We can't hide from bacteria. Like these movies, like back in the day, we had a movie like The Fog, like you couldn't hide from the fog. It would creep under doorways and through windows and things, and it would kill people, horror movies. And now you have these movies with all these what are the dead people, the Walking Dead, zombies. You have all these zombies walking around. You can't hide from the zombies because there are too many of them. They outnumber the living human beings, right? So you can hide for a while temporarily, but you can't hide permanently from the zombies because eventually they're gonna catch you and they're gonna find you. So it's kind of like viruses. We're living with these viruses every day, and we've been living with viruses for thousands of years. And viruses, what the microbiologists tell us, viruses are the largest numerous, does that make sense? Largest number of living entities on planet Earth are viruses. And what we have to understand, these viruses, it's kind of weird how they act, is that they're in particles or parts or pieces, and they're kind of sleeping or inactive, and they need a host. They need like a human body as a host. Once they get into the human body, then they attach to cells in the human body, and that's how they survive, that's how they thrive, that's how they live, and eventually they end up killing off cells in the human body. But outside of the human body, if they don't have a host, they are not harmful or dangerous. Once they get into our body and they become activated and they're thriving off of our cells, we have white blood cells and other chemicals in our immune system that find those things and attack those viruses and kill off those viruses. So while quarantining may slow the spread of the virus down, the bottom line is your immune system is still what kills off these viruses of any type. So while the quarantining and separating and social distancing, that may slow the spread down, that's not going to prevent you from potentially getting sick or potentially getting infected with a virus. Your immune system, the strength of your immune system is what's really going to help you in the long run. So next question is, what can I do to prevent myself from getting infected? Again, it's the same thing as we talked about all along. Of course, wash your hands, keep your hands clean, because we have a tendency to touch our face. Disinfect your areas, keep your areas clean. Be careful what you touch. Extra cautious what you touch. It's those handrails and doorknobs and things and countertops that you touch that may have viruses on them. But it's not just going to have coronavirus on it. It's going to have other viruses, many other viruses, many bacteria, many germs. Another question is, should I be using gloves and a mask? Like you see people in shopping centers and the supermarkets, and they're wearing the mask and the gloves, and it's like, the mask and the gloves aren't going to prevent you from getting infected. Again, your immune system is what's going to prevent you. You can't run and hide from viruses. They're everywhere. They are going to attack you one way or another. With this virus, we've had close to 100,000 cases now, but 1.4% is the number of those deaths. So the number of deaths for us are still low, and that's because we have pretty good living conditions, clean living conditions. We're doing some social distancing things, but also we have people with good immune systems, clean water, sanitary conditions, so forth and so on. Is there a cure or a vaccine yet? So a lot of people ask this, when are they going to come out with a cure? When are they going to come out with a vaccine? We have to understand, with vaccines attack specific viral strains. They vaccinate you against a specific viral strain. So there are several different types of viruses. There are several different strains of coronavirus. Coronaviruses aren't all the same. They have different DNA, different RNA structures. So you have to develop a vaccine specific to that virus. So remember, we've had a few viral outbreaks over the last 10, 15 years. We had the H1N1 swine flu. We had the SARS virus. We had MERS. We've had these, every year we have the flu. People don't realize there's like 1,000 different strains of flu virus. That's why you can get a flu shot, and there's 4 different vaccines what they're putting in these flu shots these days, 4 different strains of flu virus. So you can get your flu shot, but you can still get sick. There's no guarantee that's going to protect you, because it's only going to possibly protect you from those 4 specific strains. So remember, we have acquired immunity. You can artificially acquire immunity through a vaccine. They put a small portion of that virus strain in that vaccine, and you build antibodies against it. I tell people the best thing that can happen to you is you can come in contact with a small part of this virus, and just a small portion of the virus, a small amount, and it enters your body. You build antibodies against it, and you don't get sick, and your body is strong and defended against it. So if you do come in contact with a larger amount of the virus, you'll have already built those antibodies towards it, and you'll be safe, and you won't have any problems. So they're also finding, with these younger people, we're hearing some things and seeing some things, on social media about some of the younger people who are becoming infected, and maybe a few younger people have died. What they're finding with these younger people is that complications exist with younger people who smoke, especially the younger guys who smoke. Guys outnumber girls who smoke, maybe up to 2-to-1 a ratio, two times more guys that smoke than girls. But young people who smoke and people that vape, young people that vape, they're finding those people, even if they get affected, they may have a good immune system, they're going to have complications because their lungs have been compromised by smoking and vaping. So stay away from the alcohol, the caffeine, the nicotine. Stay away from vaping and all that stuff. Chances are, if you're doing that stuff, you're going to have some type of problems. So those are the questions I wanted to go over for today. So just remember, follow your government's guidelines and your rules. Be safe, do what they tell you to do. Let's do the quarantine. That will slow down the progression of this. Pretty soon it'll come to a peak, and then it'll start to drop off. We'll see those numbers drop off. But keep those immune systems strong. Ultimately, that's your best defense against any virus, any bacteria, any sickness, illness, or disease. Okay? All right, you guys be safe and have a good day. Enjoy the weather wherever you are. Hopefully it's not too cold. All right.